All right, welcome back to another episode of Sky U Pod. I'm joined here with Spencer and Max. Sky U Pod is brought to you by Big Banter, where you can get all your Big Ten sports news. So go ahead and check them out. Big Banter Sports. Fellas, it's our first video recording. I don't have a studio set up quite yet. I'd like to get like a gopher flag back here and all that stuff, but we're working with what we got. Today, we are going to go over our Big Ten predictions, but with a twist. Truth be told, we already recorded one of these episodes, but it was we all had such similar opinions and takes, it got kind of boring. So we asked AI to give us 3 teams from the Big Ten West and 3 teams from the Big Ten East that could win the Big Ten this year, or their respected size of the conference, that is. And then we each took one and made our case for why they will win their side of the conference. Let's start with the East, and we will have Max Olerking go first. Max, who did the AI give you as the Big Ten East champ?
Well, I feel like I got the easiest one because I have the Maryland Terrapins. Um, I mean, it's pretty obvious that they can take the East. I think everyone's talking about Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan, but you're forgetting about one of the best quarterbacks, not in just the Big Ten, but all of college football, in the better Tagovailoa, in Talia. Got to work on that pronunciation.
Tua's little
Um,
brother. That's what I've been calling him the entire time.
Yeah, little Tua. Um, no, Maryland's got a really tough road. Obviously, they've got. I mean, every year you're going to play Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. They do get Penn State and I believe Michigan at home. They do have to go to the shoe. Um, I mean, it doesn't really matter when you play Ohio State or like if you're looking at Ohio State's schedule. Ohio State will be coming off the Notre Dame game, but they have a bye in between Notre Dame and Maryland. But if I mean they're looking for a sliver of an edge in the schedule. Maybe that's it. Coming off, Ohio State, huge maybe win or big letdown loss against Notre Dame, bye week. I mean, it should help Ohio State, but we Gopher fans know that that's usually not the case for us. Um, so yeah, I mean, if you're Maryland, you're probably hoping that Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State kind of cannibalize each other. You eke out a win against one of them. Something crazy happens at the end, and hopefully your offense can play good enough to win you the East.
All right. Well, I like it. I mean, that's really their argument, right?
There's really, I
Put them
mean,
on their back.
it's tough.
It's kind of comical,
All right.
honestly. Um,
Yeah.
I liked how you
The AI
presented
wasn't perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, truly, you did make some good points, Max. I mean, if all of that does happen, to his little brother is like, let's say he becomes like a Heisman like quarterback. Unlikely, but hey,
Right.
it's the
And I mean,
last
like,
name, right?
right.
Well,
I
I
mean, in
think
all
there's I think.
seriousness,
Go ahead.
yeah, just, I mean, in all seriousness, like, Maryland does always seem to have good athletes. Like,
Yes.
and I feel like I feel like their coach has done a pretty good job. He always seems pretty even
Yes.
keel. And he seemed to kind of, I mean, that's a tough program to build up, and he seemed like he's moving in the right direction too. So from just a
Yeah.
Maryland standpoint, it seems like they're going in the right direction. But yeah, for them to win the East, it's gonna have to a lot's gonna have to happen to break their way.
I would say too, if I was gonna jump in and help you make this case, they actually I don't know everything that they returned, but they actually had somewhat of a defense last year as well, which is something that has kind of taken them a little bit to get going there, I feel like. But their defense was actually a little bit underrated, I thought, last season, or at least, not talked about as being average, which is kind of all that what they need some games with how good that offense can be. Um, I'll go next. We'll save Spencer for last just because of the team he got. Makes most sense. Like I said, the AI was not perfect, but here I am to tell you the Cinderella story of the Indiana Hoosiers that could take place this year in 2023 of college football. So digging into this team, when it spit it out, I was like, crap. Okay. Um, I like their coach, Tom Allen. He's a fiery guy, defensive guy. The defense was bad last year. When I looked up this team, I saw, I think it was the Eyes on Big Ten podcast talking about. I listened to a couple, and I think it was them that pointed out. I don't know for sure, so if it wasn't them, I'm sorry, but Indiana brought in over 20 transfers in the transfer portal this offseason, putting them at the 17th ranked rankings as far as recruits that you bring in through the transfer portal. So a top 20 semi recruiting class that they brought in, including uh quarterback. He hasn't been named the starter yet. They're kind of hoping he will be. Taven Jackson, who's going to be in his freshman season, transferring in from Tennessee, former top 20 quarterback of his class, 4-star guy, dual threat, dynamic player. I know it's going to be tough, but, I think of the last time Indiana had a young, dynamic playmaker at quarterback, Michael Penix. That season went pretty well for the Hoosiers there. They seem to always have those jump ball receivers. I don't know if it's because they're a basketball school, but they just seem to have playmakers out there on the outside that can go up and win you a jump ball. They hired a new offensive line coach, which is, I think if you talk to Hoosier fans, they will point out that their O-line has not been very good. So they finally got a new offensive line coach. So it can only get better. And then at running back, they have uh, a player by the name of, I just want to get it right, so let me pull it up. Jalen Lucas, who they'll slot at like a wing slot receiver. He's their return man. He's basically going to be used as their gadget guy, but not in like he can't play. Like he's a speedy, dynamic playmaker. So they got players um, on the offensive side of the football. And I mentioned that those transfers they brought in, guys, 4 of them on the defensive line, and it's one from Oregon, one from Texas A&M, one from Texas Tech, and the one that sounds like might be the best player is some guy from it was either Central or Western Michigan. So they're basically just reloading with transfers up front to give Tom Allen a defensive line that he can work with. And then they also brought in even more transfers in the back half of that defense. So, and you might be questioning how much can you actually put together a team full of transfers and succeed. I would argue that we've already seen it done through Michigan State a few years ago when Kenneth Walker was brought in as a transfer running back and basically carried them that year to a pretty good season in the Big Ten East. So, they start, I believe, with Ohio State, which sounds scary, but Ohio State going with a new quarterback, I think that's the best time of the year you can possibly catch them when they haven't even named a starting QB yet. So Indiana with an influx of talent through the portal, Tom Allen, who when he's got the guys has shown to coach a scrappy defense. I like what they did the year where they had Michael Penix. They got a dynamic QB in there now, assuming he wins the job. So I think they are a team that legitimately can make some noise in the East. And that is my case for Indiana Hoosiers winning the Big Ten East. One other thing. Yes, they have to play Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, obviously. But all 3 of those teams are good. And I know that sounds like a negative point. But if you can just beat one of the 3 and then have the 3 of them kind of eat each other alive, you kind of give yourself a chance if you can win out against like Rutgers and Maryland and win your crossover games. So that is my case for the Indiana Hoosiers winning the Big Ten East. Let's see what happens, baby.
Okay.
Well,
I
I do
do
like the
like what you
coach.
said. Yeah, I like their coach. He certainly can galvanize the team. Like you said, that year that they had a Cinderella season, it seemed like his spirit really was getting that camaraderie, I guess,
Yeah.
in the team, and they just were talented, frankly. So I think you're right. If they can get the quarterback position like Phoenix looking like, um, I guess they could maybe contend in the East. Yeah.
And
Other than
we
that, I don't know.
are we're not delusional. I just want to let our listeners know we are having fun with the AI projections. Because let's be honest, if you're an outsider tuning in, everyone is picking Iowa and Wisconsin in the West or Ohio State, Michigan. Some people Penn State in the East. So we let AI make our choices because we were all picking very similar teams. With that being said, Spencer, let's hear who you had for the East given to you by AI.
Yeah, so I got the Michigan Wolverines as my team. And though Max and Kurt were having some fun with their picks, I think this is the legitimate uh, Big Ten East winner. In fact, I think that they'll win it all this year. I think we start just from their depth. You kind of look at all these positions across the field. Let's see here. They got a deep tight end group. We got Colson Loveland, AJ Barner. We got some running backs. Blake Corum will be back healthy. And then you got Donovan Edwards, who's a great backup. You look at the linebacker crew. You got Ernest Hausman, Mike Barrett, Junior Colson. Everyone has experience on this team, and I think that goes a long way when you're trying to be not just the best team in the Big Ten, but in the entire country. I said this on the episode before that we had. I think that having experience at the quarterback position, and I know how there's feelings about JJ McCarthy. I get it. He might not be the most athletic quarterback that you'll see in college football, but I think experience goes a long way. He's won the Big Ten title at Ohio. Well, you beat Ohio State on their turf, wins the Big Ten title, gets to a college football playoff. That's kind of, in my mind, having that experience goes a
Yeah.
long way for a football team. And specific, I'll kind of reel it back in. In the Big Ten, we don't really see that. We see that, I guess, with Tua's little brother, but Ohio State, though we all know they'll reload there, I think that's going to be one of the key differences of having simple experience.
Yeah.
So I lumped that in with Michigan. Also, their schedule. I'll finish on that. I mean, their toughest game, I would say, aside from the Ohio State game, which they do have at home, Michigan plays on the road at Penn State late in the season, November 11th. So, I mean, outside of that, I'm not trying to be biased, but maybe Minnesota is their
Yeah.
best West game. So they play Nebraska, and no offense, Nebraska, I just got to see it. But anyways, Michigan to me is the Big Ten East winner. I think having Ohio State at home at the end of the year, you bested them for 2 years straight. Last year, honestly, blew them out of their own stadium. So I think that Michigan has the most likely chance to win the Big Ten East and likely the Big Ten.
Tell Trayvon Jackson. What was his name? Sorry. Yeah. Trayvon Jackson shows up and stuns them. I don't know if that's a home or road game, but no. We all picked Michigan to win, pretty much for the reasons you listed. Um, I honestly think JJ McCarthy's growth is the biggest question mark. Is how far they'll go postseason wise. Their trenches are good enough, and skill players obviously are good enough to win them the conference. Not easily. Ohio State's going to be their toughest game. Penn State's going to be right there, but their O line I feel like is just so much more solidified, and I think it gives them a big leg up over the closest competition right now. And things could change throughout the season, but right now I just feel best about Michigan in the trenches on both sides of the ball, and that's kind of where you need to be great to win the conference. So yeah, it's a great pick. It's a nice AI handout there for you. But if I remember correctly, no, you got Iowa too, didn't you? Yeah, we'll
I
transition now
did.
to the West. I'm gonna go last for the West.
Well,
Shitty, why don't you go
I'll
ahead?
go first. I'll
Yeah.
I'll start. So AI chose Iowa to be my Big Ten West winner, and although I think that we're a little more diffuse with this one, we kind of lean in two directions, Illinois and Iowa. But I think that I was the favorite coming out of the West. Um, I don't think that, let's just put it in layman's terms. I think that if they can simply be better at the quarterback position, they're going to be way better than they were last year. Um, I just think that their defense is always good. They're coached well. They always have some NFL D lineman or lineman. You know,
They do again this year. Yeah.
yeah, so they're well coached. They know how to beat teams. It's not going to be flashy. It's not going to be the new style of college football. But especially in the West, Barons knows how to beat the West teams. Um, and if you just look at their schedule, pull it up here. Um, really, I think their hardest game is going to be Illinois. I'm talking West games, that is. And they have that at home. And I think that's the difference between those two in terms of who's going to win the West. So obviously, they're on the road for Penn State. A Michigan State team, we don't know. They are at Wisconsin, and they obviously host our Golden Gophers at home. So I just have sees too many question marks, I guess. You got Wisconsin, who has a new coach in Luke Fickell. Doesn't mean that they're going to be bad, but I think the experience of Ferentz will just outmatch Fickell. You do have a Nebraska team who also is coached under now Rule, so we don't know what we're going to get from Nebraska. And even if they are a decent team, I don't think it's the team that can beat an Iowa football team. That's pretty good. Purdue, same thing. You got a Big Ten West champions last year, but you're losing your stud quarterback, some good pieces at receiver, new coach. It's hard for me to see them kind of advancing. They might be in the bottom of the pool, honestly. Northwestern, I don't even have to mention them. And then you got the Gophers, who for the past 2 years, I think, should have beaten Iowa. Why would my opinion change this next year? Well, it's been almost 10 years. And I think Kurt just put the nail in the coffin when he said, I got to believe it, or I got to see it to believe it. And I think he's got a point. We just, doesn't matter what we see. If we're up, we fumble, they somehow, will win the game. But I digress. I just think, especially Iowa has the Gophers at home. I definitely don't see that. We haven't won there since when, Kurt? 1999? Something like
Yeah,
that.
1999.
So we're talking almost 25 years since we went on the road. That's almost as old as us three here. So, and then Illinois, you got an Illinois team who arguably is the Big Ten West favorite, but I think simply because Iowa has them at home, that's the difference
I just
it's
want
going
to
to
chime
make.
in.
So,
That's according to us. I feel like a lot of national people are still underestimating how good I think Illinois can
sure,
be. I don't think they're
right,
getting
right,
enough love.
right,
I
yeah,
think Big Banter's done a pretty good job of recognizing how good they can be. But anyway, just want to give a
yeah,
little shout out to Illinois there.
yeah. But yeah, so yeah, that's my pick. What about you, Max? What do you think?
Well, this one hurts because AI gave me Wisconsin, so it was really uh, as a Gopher fan, it's not fun to try to look at all the good things that your rivals are doing. Um, but
Right.
looking at Wisconsin, I mean, from a it makes more sense once you dive into it why the national media is picking Wisconsin to win the West and to make a lot of noise with Luke Fickell this year. I mean, schedule is the easiest thing to look at right away. They do go to Illinois, but they get Ohio State at home. They avoid Michigan and Penn State, so they've got that in their favor. Um, and they do get Iowa at home as well. So a little bit of a, I feel like between Iowa and Wisconsin, you could argue either of those two teams have the easiest schedule of the West. But if you think Wisconsin's better than Iowa, then you'd probably say Iowa's schedule is tougher because they go to Wisconsin just as kind of like the little tiebreaker there. Wisconsin though is kind of, I mean, their offense, you don't really know what's going to happen now. It's really weird looking at, depth charts and all these things, and you see Wisconsin offensive style air raid. You're like that can't be right. Like I feel like people in Madison are going to be really confused when there's not a fullback on the field and they see
Yeah.
5 wide. They're like, whoa, 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 what? It's not Wisconsin football, but
Right.
um, I mean, they've got all the right fits. They've got, I mean, if that's what they want to do, their offensive coordinator Phil Longo, coming from North Carolina, he was at Ole Miss prior to that. I mean, that's his style. He wants to air it out, and they've got a transfer quarterback in Tanner Mordecai from SMU that fits that style perfectly. I mean, that's all they did down there was throw. Um, so I mean, they're gonna try to put up some points this year. It's gonna be crazy. And then obviously still with the running back, Braylon Allen, who everyone's talking about his age still, which is weird, but it's
Yeah,
annoying.
you didn't know he's only 19. We'll only be told 40 times this season.
Right. Anyway, he's still very good, and he's going to be a huge part of the offense, even if they are going to try to air it out more. I mean, it's just going to make his plays more explosive, probably, because you got to defend both. You got to defend the deep ball. There's going to be a lot of targets running around. Plus, you've got a stud running back like usual. I mean, even the transfer wide receiver from USC is going to be a huge impact if they're going to try to go to this style. So it feels like, from an explosiveness standpoint, they're going to try to make a big splash. And then just from teams aren't really going to know what to expect. I mean, everyone had tape on Wisconsin. You kind of know, same with an Iowa or an Illinois, even Minnesota now. You know what to expect offensively. With this Wisconsin offense, you don't really know exactly until you see it a few times, and then they're probably going to add wrinkles throughout the season. So I feel like they get a little bit of an advantage kind of having that. No one's seen it before.
I can
From them.
respect that. What I don't respect is throwing. No, I respect the take. I just know that I saw some Wisconsin fans complain about Tanner Mordecai's spring game, which spring games are the most overbought into
Yeah.
tapes ever. So I don't put a lot of stock into it. But if you're a Gopher fan, hold on to that because maybe it is tough, right, to just bring in a bunch of new faces and just have it mesh instantly. Um, I I feel like Wisconsin's getting a little bit overhyped heading into the season, but again, we don't know. Like it's just so many
Right.
changes happening. They could be good. Like, would I be shocked if they won? Actually, I probably would be, to be honest, if they won it right away. I feel like people are expecting like it's going to be Cincinnati. All of a sudden, they're going to be at Cincinnati's caliber that Cincinnati's been at the last couple of years, which was a very good football team. And I don't know. It's just they've been off for a few years here, so I just got to see it, right? I got to see it before I'm ready to buy in as them being one of the top three. Well, they're probably top three, but like top two. I think there's a clear separation for the top, but um, AI gave me. I was excited about this. We didn't rig it this way. I did get the Golden Gophers to win the Big Ten West,
I
and I
got to
feel
hear
like I
this
should.
one.
I should feel like I should start where everyone is starting, and that is the schedule. Yeah, it's the hardest schedule in the West by far. Like, and I've seen a lot of podcasts here, a lot of predictions here. Like, they go 7-5, and with the bowl win getting to 8 wins, that's a really good season for them because they're a good team, but it's just a really tough schedule. I would counter with this: if it's really PJ's best team, most athletic team, which is kind of the impression he's been given. How good of a team are you if you're going 6-6 just because you have a tough schedule? I think the argument would be made that you go 8-4 despite a tough schedule. I guess that's maybe a side note. And going to the offensive side of the ball, yes, you lose Tanner Morgan. Look at last year's offensive passing attack. It came alive when Athan became the starting quarterback. You're getting him back. He's your full-time starter now. He's been practicing as the full-time starter all offseason, working in with new upgraded talent that you've brought in through the portal at receiver. You still have your freak tight end athlete who's going to be the best safety blanket possible for him, span forward for them there, the 6'7" athletic tight end. You brought in a talented running back who's got 2,000-yard rushing seasons from Western Michigan, Sean Tyler. And then you got the young guys at tailback and also a veteran, Bryce Williams, returning. So you're set up pretty good. I think people would point to the question mark being there, the offensive line. Something to remember, though, you're not having a true freshman or second year guy step in for these guys that we're losing on the inside. These are all fifth and sixth year guys. PJ already pointed it out. Their weight room numbers, their speed, and their strength are above of what we saw last year. And I think we all agree last year it was not the offensive line's fault for the offensive struggles. It was the predictable 99 run plays in a row because we didn't, got a little overcautious with the football, didn't trust receivers to make a play. I think that's changing this year. And, a lot of people are saying I think it's a transition year for that offense because we're moving slightly away from what we've been doing to more 50-50, a little bit more throw it around, not air raid, not like what Wisconsin's probably going to do, but just transitioning away from. I mean, we literally ran the ball more than anybody except the Army and Navy and Air Force schools, I believe. So, I think people are expecting a a gap in from it to just working right away. But if people are going to buy into Wisconsin bringing people and just being able to go and pass heavy, which not everyone is, but I'm going to have no problem buying into the Gophers working with the returners that they got, the vets that they got, for not to mention Crab back for a seventh season. If we're going to start throwing it a little bit more to improve playmakers, like with pretty much the same staff, Simon's been here for a while and called the Auburn bowl game from a few years ago. I don't think there's a reason why the offense can't be good off the get go, and why it can't be the strength of this team off the get go, just given the vets you have back and the playmakers you have on that side of the ball. So, and that's just a prediction I have in general. Forget that I'm trying to make a case for us to win the West. I think the offense is the strength of this team this year. Now, moving to the defensive side of the football, I've never heard PJ talk higher about a defensive line leading up to the season than I think he has this one, which is weird because we lost Trill Carter, which I was really nervous about, and it might come up to be huge. But I think they really like the kids they got that are young. They're going to rotate in. We got Kyler Baugh back for another year. He's going to be the vet out there in his last season. Got Jaw Joyner and Strigano on the outside. And then all of a sudden we're hearing stuff about Anthony Smith, the redshirt freshman DN, who's going to be tough to pull out the field. You got Devin Smith, who's going to be in his third year at linebacker, who sounds like he's beating out the transfer from Western Michigan to get on the field early alongside Cody Lindenberg. You have Justin Wally and Tyler Nubin, who are absolute studs, looking over a secondary who, yes, has a lot of new faces, but the depth there are pieces that they've liked for a long time. You have probably, is it Draymond Green? I forget his first name. I don't think it's Draymond, but you have Green starting at the other safety spot probably this year. We've seen him in action here and there. They like what they see out of him. He's a hard, heavy hitter, so that's nice. You have the transfer Jack Henderson, who's going to probably start in that slot. So I think you're seeing a lot of the question marks kind of get filled in. The other corner spot from Wally's probably the biggest question mark at this point on the team. But, you know, yes, we have Michigan. But with Michigan, there's still a threat more to hurt you with the run game. Ohio State will throw, but you're going up against Ohio State, I'm sorry, Wisconsin and Iowa, and if you can make them throw to beat you, if the D line can be as good as what they're hyping, I don't see why not. And like the West, I think the top four teams in the West are close enough to kind of beat each other up. And once that happens, you can afford to lose to an Iowa State. You can afford to lose to a Michigan, which odds are probably will happen for us this year. So, but if you can just beat three of the four and go 9-3, you're looking really good in conference play. You have Illinois at home. We physically dominated, doesn't mean anything because we didn't win, but we have been the more physically dominant team the past 2 years with Iowa. We've beaten Wisconsin 2 straight, and you have them at home. So if you can beat Illinois and Wisconsin and hope Iowa maybe gets roughed up or drops a couple, I think you're right there, and I don't think it's a stretch to say that we can win the West. Do we need some breaks? Probably, but I don't think it's real for our chemistry to gel, just with what we have going for us at the start of the year.
That might be my favorite take, Kurt.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I kind of view it from this perspective. I feel like PJ almost has the sense of, and I kind of like it, that he's kind of sitting in the driver's seat. You know, you got a lot of new faces in the Big Ten West. You have a Iowa team that you know you're knocking on the door. You just got to get over that hump. It's going to be hard. It's away, but the past 2 seasons you were right there and you just didn't finish. I feel like the season is PJ's to lose. I really think that way. You know, college football, there's going to be camaraderie over these brand new looking teams. We get that. There's excitement. They're going to try and stun you one here and there because that's what you got to do as a new team. But that's nothing for PJ anymore. There aren't those games where we can just walk in somewhere and be thrilled unless it's a top blue blood team.
Yeah.
And I think, and an Iowa team that you haven't beaten in a while. And sure, like the Wisconsin game is going to be huge. It's Big Ten West implications. But I think that PJ has reached the ceiling in, the Big Ten West, meaning I guess he's up to it. But I think that if he can just get through Iowa, win the West, and he's been this close, you know, that will solidify, I think, certainly his place in the Big Ten. And I'd say, just as a Minnesota Golden Gopher fan, that would just be awesome
Yeah.
if he could just win the West. I feel like he let the last couple of years maybe slip, but I think this year with so much changing, I think that this year is a doable year. I think that, like you said, Kurt, you just knock out those West teams, drop one, even if you drop one to Michigan and Ohio State and maybe one other, there's no question that all the games are winnable. So I think you're spot on, and it's a great case, man.
You got to go 6-3 in conference if you want a chance at winning the Big Ten West this year.
Yes,
that's my opinion. That's a real nitpick of mine on commentators. Just say you don't think we're going to be that good this year, which is fine. But I just Minnesota's a good team. That schedule's awfully tough, so they'll be happy with the bowl game this year. It's like no. PJ's in his 7th year now, and if we're a good squad, a good team would go 8-4 despite the tough
right,
schedule. You know what I mean?
right.
Like,
You're right.
If we go 7-5, which is a very realistic possibility, I'll be like, you know what, fine, not where I wanted to be, but it is what
Right.
it is. Like, we'll move on, depending who the wins are against, right? Like, I don't want to lose. I want to lose to every basically. I don't want to lose to. I don't want to lose to Ohio State, Michigan, Iowa, Illinois,
Yeah.
Wisconsin. Like losing all 5 of those that would suck.
Horrible.
I mean, those are all good teams, but
yeah, that's a step backwards in my opinion, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I
Right.
just feel like they're like, yeah, it's a good team, but that schedule, it's like, well, how good of a team are you then? If it
Right.
really depends all on the schedule, because
Yeah.
if this is really the most talented team, I mean, PJ went. What did we do? 10-2. Yeah, we lost Iowa,
Yeah.
Wisconsin in 2019, but you were right there. You were right there
Yep.
at the end.
Knocking on the door.
And this team is good enough to pull an upset on somebody. So
yeah,
they have the skill at the playmaking positions. It's just, can the D line create some pass rush, and how's the secondary going to hold up for the spots we don't know? And if the O line can run block, that's the only questions. That's the only questions I have about this team.
Yep.
Yeah, PJ said it. I mean, he says the schedule is opportunistic, which makes sense, right? I mean, it's an opportunity to prove a lot of people wrong. It's an opportunity to.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, the schedule's hard, but the more games you win in this schedule, the better it's going to be for you in the rankings and in the media and all that other bull crap. It really doesn't matter
on the map.
But
and this
exactly.
This is gonna sound like a knock. How long? If the season does go south, PJ's gonna be saying, "Yeah, well, like the excuses is already laid out for him. He's gonna use it, and any coach probably would. But
yeah.
But
like, we know.
So I will say when we recorded our takes here of the episode we didn't post just because it was too, we all were saying the same stuff, so that's why I decided not to post it. I did go Illinois for my big. That sounds so bad after just making my case for the Gophs, and I still believe that case. But when I was asked to pick, I did go with Illinois. I think they have the best D line, best interior D line for sure. I think in the Big Ten, and probably the best overall D line in the West if they can get some pressure off the edge, which I'm sure they will be able to. And then I just trust Bielema to get that offensive line up to where it needs to be, because last year the question with Illinois was going to be that offensive line. And yes, they had Chase Brown, and he probably made up for a lot of mistakes or not great blocking all the time by the offensive line, but they're deeper now already at the offensive line. Bielema, that is his specialty. He did it at Wisconsin. It looks like he's doing it there. And Iowa, as good as their offensive line normally has been, last year it was average at best. They couldn't run the ball consistently, and that's imperative to Iowa being successful. I mean, they have a great defense. Overall, I think they have the best defense in the West, probably, just because Illinois lost a couple DBs high in the draft. But I do, and I like they got the transfer in from, I believe, Ole Miss. I think Luke Altmaier was in from Ole Miss, I think. But he's, got a lot of hype behind him. We'll see how it goes. But he's a better playmaker. Not saying he's going to be better. I don't know if he's going to be better than Cade McNamara for Iowa, but I think he's got a higher potential. And they got some playmakers on the outside in Isaiah Williams. So I picked Illinois because they have pretty similar schedules as well. So I think Illinois nudges Iowa to win the West in my official prediction, non-AI based. And I know you guys had Iowa, for reasons you both stay. If you want to retouch on them, go ahead. But I just felt like Illinois wasn't one of the teams, so I just threw that out there. But
No, I mean, Illinois is definitely a formidable team. If they win the West, I
yeah,
wouldn't be surprised. I just look at Iowa and just say, literally, decent quarterback play would go a million miles for them.
yeah,
And
it
so
would.
I think, like you said, they got a transfer. They got, I guess, two transfers, right? Or they got Cade McNamara coming from
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, and was it a guy from Ole Miss? Um,
I'm not sure what they got from Ole Miss. Well, or are you saying Illinois? Illinois quarterbacks from Ole Miss, I believe.
oh
But
no, no, I
they
guess
have
Petrus is still there.
no. Petrus is gone.
Is he?
Yeah,
Who's their
I don't.
backup going to
I
be?
have no idea who their backup is. Some young guy. I'm assuming that's been
Okay,
there. But they brought in a tight end from Michigan as well through the transfer portal who's going to be good.
yeah,
But they already have Lackney. Not I'm
yeah,
not. He's going to be one of the best in the Big Ten.
right,
He's a great player. And then they also brought an Ohio State transfer at receiver, I believe. So they
yeah.
brought in guys. Is it going to mesh? And I have a little bit more questions. I liked what I saw at Illinois' offensive coordinator than I did Iowa's last year. We'll just say that.
Yeah,
Not a hot
that's
take, I don't
fair.
think.
I just think,
Yeah.
yeah, in the end, you have that game at home. It's hard to go to Iowa and win a game. Um,
It is,
and I think
but
that's the difference. But
yeah, that's fair.
other than that, I agree. Illinois, they're probably the team to beat in the
Yeah,
Big Ten West for sure.
Illinois. I think Illinois and Iowa are probably, if you were to tier it, I think they're just because of their schedule at least. I think they're
Yeah,
probably slightly above the rest. And then
yeah,
I would put Minnesota and Wisconsin right below them. And the more it gets closer, I think I'm edging Purdue up. I think Purdue's going to be better than I initially thought.
what
Sounds
makes you
like
think
Hudson.
that?
Sounds like Hudson Carr is doing very well. Again, it's spring ball. They're going to say what you want to hear, kind of the Big Ten, network and
Yeah,
stuff. But it sounds like he's looking pretty good. My question with Purdue is, what's that offensive line going to look like? They're going to sling it around. With is it Walters or Waiters? I forget. They got the Illinois defensive coordinator, but as their head coach now, so I think he'll do a pretty good job with the defense. And they had a good defense last year, so I think Purdue is definitely a team that maybe they don't win it the West this year, but I think they're going to be not far off, and I think they could easily play spoiler by beating teams that they're not on paper supposed to beat, because I think they got some dudes there. So I think the West is pretty going to be, as always, a pretty fun watch this college football season.
I'd agree.
Which, by the way, we finally have games back this Saturday. The Sky U Pod Parlay. Which, by the way, there is a Big Banter betting account as well, I believe. I should have had that ready, but check it out. It's on the Big Banter website, so if you go there, you can find it, and they'll be submitting their over-unders as well. I don't know if it's a weekly thing or how far ahead it is, but it's there as well. We do one here on Sky U Pod. Last year was practice. Now we're on camera. You can see our faces. You can believe what we're telling you. I didn't put this to the guys yet. Are we picking week 1 games? Like this week 0, I should say. There's games this Saturday. You got Notre Dame versus Navy. I believe USC plays in the night game against San Jose State. You guys want to?
I didn't. I did not come prepared for this. I could certainly look into it quickly.
All right, then it's a tease. We will have it next week in our episode, which we'll be previewing, guys. Next week, Gopher football is back. And we will have an episode out, hopefully by Monday night or Tuesday morning. But we will be doing the crossover with our Nebraska brethren here at Big Banter. You know, I'm sure there'll be a light smack talk going back and forth. You know, they're always angry at daddy, and right now PJ's their daddy, so they gotta say what they gotta say, you know. And but no, we're gonna have them on, and we're gonna get to learn a little bit more from the insider things about this Nebraska squad that we'll see, and you'll have about 2.5, 3 days to watch it before the game. So get ready for that. I think we're all pretty excited for that, and yeah. Thanks for tuning in. This has been another episode of Sky U Pod, brought to you by Big Banter. And yeah, go Gophs, baby. We're going to do it this year. One of these years, we're going to do it. Why not this year? Peace.
Love you, Gophs. See ya.